going to show you things not to do when you change your oil so you don't mess it up. Now the first thing is use the correct kind of oil. Watch this. As we zoom in, what does it say here? 5W30. And what does it say on my oil? 5W30. Modern engines are very specific. Don't put a lighter oil and don't put a heavier oil in. It's designed for one oil. You'll use that. These variable valve timing engines, particular about the oil that's in them. Use too heavy weight, you can damage that stuff. Always use the oil it was designed for. You're gonna change your own oil, get a good jack and jack stand. And a lot of people think I'm not strong enough to get the bolt off to drain it. You get a long extension bar like this. The socket goes right on it. Then with all that leverage, anybody can pull it off. Once you line it up, you gotta pull hard. But it gets loose pretty fast. And it's just a simple job of using your fingers. You just spin the thing off. They got a pretty long thread. Out comes the dirty oil into the pan. Now you don't want to burn yourself. So do this on an engine that's at least sat there for say an hour or so. As you can see here, I got my big ass fan blowing, so it cools it down pretty fast. And here's something most people forget. The oil drain plug has a little gasket. Always use a new one. Buy them ahead of time. I got a whole stack of them here. They don't cost much. Buy a stack of them. Always put a new one on. Then just finger tight it in with your finger. So you can't turn it anymore. Then get your socket and extension. Put it on. Now it's a little bit snug. Then turn it a little bit more so it's nice and tight and won't come off. That's it. Then get yourself an oil filter. I'm using an STP quality one. This is just normal oil. We're going to change it every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. And these are good to over 5,000 miles. If you're using synthetic oil, then I'd advise go up a little bit higher. Buy a higher end one. And they can be changed every 7,000 to 10,000 miles if you want it to last a long time. And when it comes to getting the old oil filter off, you want the right tool. I find these are really handy. They open up. They fit on the filter, and you can easily unscrew them. You don't have to mess around with thin metal breaking or plastic crap. These metal ones work really well. Now in the case of this Lexus, they're very easy to get to. There's the oil filter. It's under the exhaust manifold. Another reason you want to do it when the engine isn't red hot, so you don't burn your hand when you're getting the filter off. This just slides over the filter, like so. And since it's recessed, we use the ratchet and a little bitty extension, so we have enough room to get it on. Then with the whole thing on, you turn it and it's loose. And you can take it off. Now it easily just spins off with your bare hand. I got a lot of turns on it, but it just spins off. This is why you want to do it on a cool engine. Turn it sideways and up it goes. And here's a really important tip. Don't forget to check that this gasket is still on your old filter. You can see the rubber is still here. Sometimes this sticks to the engine. And if you take this off and this is naked, and then screw a new filter on, you do what's called double gasketing. You'll have the gasket on the new filter on top of the gasket of the old one. Often it will start leaking. I knew a guy who blew the engine on his Jeep doing that. Think of the new filter, put a little oil on your finger, put it on the lip. That way it'll go on, won't leak, and then when you take it off, it won't be almost impossible to take off. Then you just keep spinning the new one on, and once it contacts, turn it. That's good enough. You get it tight enough. Of course, then you got to decide on oil. I'm using this STB conventional 5-weight 30 oil. That's what it calls for. Now, if you want insane protection, you could go for something like this Redline 5W30 full synthetic oil. My friends that drive race cars, they swear by this stuff. Now, for a normal driver, yeah, it's kind of overkill. This stuff costs like 3 times to 4 times as much as the STP oil does. Plain old oil is fine if you change it every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. It's perfectly fine. And especially if you don't drive the car that much, you got to change the oil once a year anyway. And if you're only changing it once a year, hey, isn't it better to use oil that costs $3 a quart instead of oil that costs $10 or $12 or $15 a quart? It's not burning any oil. Hey, they're both working perfectly fine for normal driving situations. I got a whole video on the ratings. This particular one is SN Plus, which is a really high rating. So it's a high rated oil. This is perfectly fine. Now, how do you know how much oil to put in? Well, look it up first. My oil data, we're gonna check engine oil, fluid types and capacities. Here we go. Drain and fill with oil filter change, 5 US quarts. Well, that was easy. I got 5 quarts. In an effort to be totally transparent, the reason I'm using the STP oil is it's good oil, and it was on sale at AutoZone, so I'm using it. Now start with a funnel so you don't spill much, and pour it slow. These have baffles that are pretty slow, so you actually have to pour it at a slow rate like this. If I poured the thing in full blast, it would start leaking out of the top and getting all over the exhaust. On these V6 Toyota, Lexus engines, you gotta put the oil in slow or you're gonna make a mess. And when you're done, put the cap back on, make sure it's snug so it doesn't leak, and look under to see if there's anything leaking. You never know. You always want to check for leaks when you're done. And take it for a good road test. And don't forget to recycle your oil. I take mine to AutoZone, they recycle it. And don't forget to recycle your oil filter too. The AutoZone down the street from me, they now take the oil filters too. Now it's very important that you change the fluid in these things regularly, because when you do change the fluid, only a small portion of all the fluid in the transmission comes out. Now, a lot of guys are going to try to sell you a flush job. Do not flush them. If you flush out a transmission, there's all kinds of nooks and crannies and little holes, and if there's any dirt, you can ram it into there. I've seen them get flushed. They don't even move after they're flushed. You just want to drain what you can and fill. And above all, don't listen to the idiots at the dealership that say, oh, it's a lifetime fluid, you never need to change it. That's bunk. I asked them one time, I said, how dare you say that? They said, well, it's a lifetime fluid. It's good for the lifetime of the transmission. Then I said, what's the lifetime of the transmission? And they said, well, we guarantee it for 60,000 miles. I hope it lasts longer than that, right? So they're just saying, oh, don't change the fluid. When the transmission breaks, just get another transmission. Stupid advice. All fluid gets dirty over time. We'll get more friction. We'll wear things out. So you do want to change it. In the case of these, I advise every maybe 35, 40,000 miles, change it. They're not crap like the ones that Nissan makes, the Jatco ones. Honda makes one of the best two, Honda and Toyota, 1 and 2 with CVT transmissions. So they're good transmissions, but you want to take care of them. Now when you see how easy it is to change the fluid in this thing today, you'll gladly do it yourself. And take my advice, do it yourself. I have seen people who paid mechanics to do it. They screwed up, they either put in too much fluid or not enough, and it destroyed these transmissions, cost thousands and thousands to replace or repair. Just open the hood. On the transmission side, there's the front of the engine. There's the transmission here. Now we're going to jack this side up. Jack it up here on the jack point there. And stick a jack stand under. Cars have gone bananas with modern cars. So we got to take these stupid splash pans off. Throw our drain pan in. You notice this should fit right on. Rather than kill myself pull on the stupid thing, I just use a large hammer. You heard it pop? That means it's loose. You can use your finger to get it off now. It's simple. And what you want to do is have it in an empty drain pan and let it go. It might take 5 minutes. They have little magnets on these. As you can see, there's a tiny amount of metal filing. See them standing up here? And that's black. Don't freak out. That's totally normal on one of these. This one's never been touched. It's never been changed. This is the original factory stuff, and that little bit of metal filings, that's normal. Now, if they're big, tall, giant, gloppy ones, yeah. This just goes to show why you gotta change the fluid and not say it's lifetime fluid. Because there's pieces in there, and you'll want to get them out. It's just absurd that these clowns say you never have to change them. You can see there are metal filings on there. You definitely want to change it. Now, we're measuring what comes out, and we'll put the same exact back in, because I could show you on my phone my all data system, but there is a gigantic step-by-step process to correctly check the fluid. This isn't like the old ones that you put the dipstick in. It doesn't work that way. This thing is new enough, it's never been changed. The transmission itself is bone dry. There's nothing leaking on the outside. So we know it's full of fluid. We'll measure what comes out, put that same amount back in. It's that simple. Now, let's say you have one that's older and it's all wet, the fluid had been leaking, you're screwed then. You're gonna have to pay a guy like me with our fancy computers and our data systems to change it out and then fill it up And it'll take hours and you're gonna pay a whole bunch of money. That's why you want to change it every 35, 40,000 miles to keep it clean, so it doesn't leak anything out, so you don't have to deal with any of that crap. Now we gotta put the fluid back in. You look up here, you'll see up there sockets on it. But easier to get off than the other one. That's the hole where we're gonna pump the fluid back in. You can see the funnel fits down in there. From the top down, we won't have to get a pump and pump the stupid thing. First, we're going to pour 1 quart in. Then we're going to use this to measure what's in there, so we'll know exactly how much to put in. Don't trust any of the books. Many of them lie. So we'll pour 1 quart in, and make sure you do what he did. I told him to bring it. Honda Genuine. Bought it at the dealer. Do not mix fluids. They're particular. They're very particular, especially Honda. Now that we got 1 quart in, we got an empty one. So there's the old dirty fluid, and you can see. Look at it. It's dirty. You saw how clear the other one was. It's pretty dirty. Keep pouring until this one's full. You can look in the top and see when it gets close. You can also look in the side. All right, it's up to the top here. Now this one's full, so that's 1, and we put 1 in. Now normally I pour the old oil in my old oil gasoline can that said old oil, but my son stole it for his boat. So I'm using this Naked Way gallon to put the old oil, take it to the recycling center. There's number 2. We'll throw that in. Pour all the rest in this because it won't take it off. Now I'm having a hard time reading it, so here's a trick. Get a flashlight and shine it in the top. Then you can read the side better. In this case, it stops right at 28 ounces. It's just about 3 whole quarts. See the nonsense about it being a lifetime fluid? Look how dirty that stuff is. It's dirty. It's really dirty. And it's only 50,000 miles of driving. Believe me, you're better off changing it every 35, 40,000 miles. Buy the fluid at the dealer. Learn how to do it yourself like this. Then you don't have to worry about somebody screwing it up. Putting in cheaper fluid. You'll do it right. Now, since we don't want to forget, we'll put the 28 ounces in first. And as you can see, look how much cleaner that stuff is. That's it for that one. We'll have a little tiny bit left. And we'll put the last quart in. That'll be exactly what came out is going in. So here goes the last quart. And we'll crawl under and put the bolt and the washer back on. First you get it on finger tight. Then put a socket on it and get it snug in there. Just a little bit more so it won't leak. Put the stupid pan back on. I hate these things. Now we're going to take it for a road test, but first we're going to let down and put my fancy scanner on it just to see what kind of shape the transmission and car is in. In this case it's a cinch, it's just right there. Plug it in the left kick panel. On goes the scanner, and we'll start her up. Turn on the AC too, it's getting really hot out here. And we'll get some stuff going here. Intelligent diagnosis. A lot faster with a more modern car like this. It knows what it is. We'll do diagnosis, and we'll do a smart scan. It's going to go through everything on the car. See, look at all the stuff on the screen this baby's going through. It is going through a ton of stuff. There's no way a human being could do that without spending days or weeks or months. Modern vehicles, gotta have modern equipment to diagnose them. There's no way out of it. Which is a big reason, if you buy one of these used like this guy did, to have a guy like me check it out. Not just some clown with a little scan tool, but a real tool that goes through every system. All of these different systems. All of them. And so far so good. Everything's green. Gray just means it doesn't have that system on it. Everything's green, but we want to look at the transmission because we're curious about the CVT transmission. So here we go. No, it doesn't have trouble codes, but we'll check it anyways. No trouble codes. So we will go to data stream. Check out the data stream. We'll select all 65 parameters. Now they only trip trouble codes when they go too far off, 20, 25% plus or minus. So it could be bad data that's on its way out but didn't trip a code. So we're going to look at all of them. Blue is good data. These are color coded too. There's all kinds of information on these CVT transmissions. They're very complex. No data flow. I'm going to take it for a spin, see how it shifts. Here we go, backing up. It's got a decent backup camera. Man, these Civics have gone a long way. They are so much more luxurious, smoother riding cars than they used to be years ago. And you can see, now it's not a regular transmission, so it doesn't really shift gears. What we're looking for is if it has too much slippage, where you step on the gas and it doesn't accelerate. Well, that's definitely not the case. And you might wonder, why do they have CVT transmissions? Well, the main thing is because they get phenomenal gas mileage for their size, they weigh less, and they're cheaper to make. In the case of this, he's driving on Highway 65, he gets 40 miles a gallon. So, that's pretty good. Now, originally I hated these because you step on the gas, nothing happened. This, it accelerates pretty good. As far as I'm concerned, Honda and Toyota make the best CVT transmissions in the world. They have the least problems, better acceleration, and phenomenal gas mileage. This little Civic is a joy to drive in the curves, but of course, it's not a drag strip car. Speaking of which, we're coming up to our little drag strip, so we'll stop and we'll see how fast this can take off. All right, here we go. Full speed ahead. Not bad. Now, it acts like it's shifting gears. It doesn't really shift gears, but you can see it's exceptionally smooth. We didn't get jerking, herky-jerky, and let me tell you, in this 2017 Civic, the CVT transmission was light years ahead of a lot of its competitors. Like I say, the only other ones that I like are Toyota. And I happen to like the newer Toyotas even better because they have what are called launch gears. They actually launch in an actual gear. And once they're out of the first launch gear, they go into a CVT configuration, so they're combo training. This isn't that way, but really, when you need to pass somebody and you step on the gas, look, it starts getting faster, 54, 57, 60. It's not a dog, and it's exceptionally smooth. He bought it used. It does have 51,000 miles. If it would have been changed at 35 or so, the fluid wouldn't have been as dirty. So that's what I advise doing. You can see, it's so easy to do. Just do it yourself. And I do have to say, look, you step on the gas, it takes off a lot better than the earlier CVTs did. They're coming to the point of perfecting them, at least Honda and Toyota are. As for the Jatco ones, not impressed. Not impressed. If you own an all-wheel drive vehicle, there's some maintenance you need to do that you didn't need to do before, you probably don't even know about. And if you don't do it, it's going to cost you a fortune in repairs as time goes on. This RAV4 is all-wheel drive. So the transmission just doesn't drive the front wheel and a front-wheel drive. It also drives the rear wheel. So unlike modern front-wheel drive vehicles, these all-wheel drive vehicles have two parts you need to maintain that the front-wheel drive ones don't. They have a transfer case, and they also have a rear differential that sends part of the rear wheels. Now, there's fluid in there. If you don't change that fluid, those gears will wear out and cost you a small fortune. So today I'm going to show you how you can change your own. Go to a dealer, they're going to charge you hundreds of dollars. All you got to do is buy a couple of quarts of fully synthetic gearbox oil that goes for your car, and you can do it yourself like I'm going to show you. It is a very simple process. Now you might notice I'm parked on the end of the driveway instead of my usual shooting on the hill there. And there's a reason for that. When you do the fluid change to the transfer case and differential, you want to be on level surface. You don't want it to be crooked, cockeyed, because then you won't get the right level. So park on a flat surface and put the emergency brake on. This baby on. Good thing it has a real one, not one of those electronic crappers. Now first we'll jack it up with the jack and jack stand so we can get under it. Now the drain's supposed to be a 10mm hex head, so it's often hard to break. We'll try it with a nice long bar. And we'll get our drain pan, have that ready. There's the transfer case here. There's the drain plug and there's the fill plug. Now behold, it is a 10mm, it fits perfectly fine. First, loosen the add plug, because if you can't get this add plug off, you don't want to drain it and have it empty. Make sure the add plug comes off. This is loose. Now we'll drain it. So we have it hooked up and there we go, coming loose. Now I'm wearing gloves because this stuff stinks. You get it on stuff and it does smell quite a bit. We'll take it out and we'll drain it out. Out it comes. You just let it drip until nothing more comes out. Now you can see there's a little bit of crud on the end. We'll wipe it off. It is magnetic. And you'll often see a little bit of crud like this on it. That's normal. This thing's got 60,000 miles on it. There's no big chunks or anything. You want to wipe it all off clean. Like I said, it has a very distinctive odor to it. And make sure you get a new gasket too. It won't leak when you put it back together. Now nice and tight. Get it snug. That's good. It's nice and snug now. And we'll take the fill plug out and we'll pump it back in here. Off that comes. Now you got two choices. You can measure what came out, pump it back in, but these are just splash lubrication. And the way it goes is the fill plug, you just pump the fluid in until it comes back out the fill plug, then it's full. Make sure you use a synthetic gear oil, the same weight that it's supposed to have in it. And these are squeeze bottles. You can try to squeeze in it, but there's no room there. So, I got my giant V-var pump I can just buy. Right, so what you can do is take the end off, then take the top off of here and get that stupid seal or cardboard plastic piece off, and then just pour it in here. That's the easiest way. That should be enough. They don't take all that much. And screw the top on nice and tight. This has got an open and close valves. This is closed, this is open. Then we just pump it in. As you'll see, it's got a nice flexible top, so this can easily fit in the hole up here. Goes right in the hole, and you can pump it in. And you can see it's starting to drip out. That means it's full. And again, get your wrench and socket, get it nice and tight. Then wipe around all the parts that drip so it doesn't leave a mess in your driveway. And you think, oh my God, it's leaky. No, you wipe the old stuff off. I'm looking around and you can see the front tires are worn out. They're worn down to the wear bars, right? It needs new front tires, but here's the problem. This is an all-wheel drive vehicle, so you're gonna have to buy all 4 tires. It's an expensive endeavor. You can see these rear ones here are cracked, so you got to replace them all anyway. Front ones are worn out. You got to replace all 4. So in this case, it really didn't matter because the back ones are dry rotted, the front ones are worn out. The problem is, generally, your front tires are going to wear out a lot faster than the rear tires. Pulls a lot of it, all the stopping, right? So let's say the front wheels were worn out, but the backs weren't dry rotted. You still got to buy all 4 because they have to be the same size tire for the all-wheel drive system, or it will screw things up and it can ruin the internals of your all-wheel drive. So all-wheel drive, more expensive when you got to buy tires. Now the back one, it has the fill plug on the passenger side, and it has the drain plug on the driver's side. So first, again, we're going to open the fill plug because if we can't get that off, we're not going to drain it out. Well, with the giant cheater bar, I was able to break it loose, so we can see it's going to come off. Always do that, because if you can't get this off, don't try draining it. And when you pull on it, boy, I'm going to have to use 2 hands on this one. There we go. Oh, there we go. We got it off. You get the drain pan, stick it under here, and you're going to see not too much is going to come out of this one. These rears on the Toyotas don't really hold that much. You can see it's slowing down already, and it's almost done dripping. While it's dripping, you can see this too. There's a little black stuff on the magnet. That's totally normal. There's no chunks or anything. You will often get little magnetic parts just from wear. This thing's never been changed. It's the first time. Then we'll go back to tightening it up with a new gasket. Get it nice and snug. Switch hands here. There. Now we'll fill it on the other side. And as you can see here, the little hose fits right in. So you can easily put it in. And now you can see it's dripping out, so we put the cap in, it's full. And of course, tighten it up, put a new gasket on, so it won't leak, and wipe all the excess off. And get your oil, put it in your recycling container. I like these old plastic water jugs. They're great because you can get 5 gallons in them. Then you only have to take it to the auto parts store to have them recycle it every once in a while. 5 gallons is a lot of fluid. And they're so big, they don't make a mess. It's that easy. No mess, no drip. So, case closed, and how to prevent damage and maintain your all-wheel drive transfer case and rear differential. People charge you a lot of money to do the simple stuff I just did. You can easily do it yourself. Just follow all the steps I have and you can save money and be happy driving an all-wheel drive vehicle that you're not going to have to spend a fortune for a transfer case or a differential because you didn't properly maintain them. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.